Yes, today is the last day for early voting in the primaries. We are looking to elect a new governor for the great state of Georgia. This woman who is with us this morning, she is running as the Democratic candidate, and she is former House Majority Leader Stacy Abrams. Of course, a Spelman College graduate. How are you, dear?
I am very well. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you for coming in.
She's looking at her watch like, I'm going to see Frank. I'm timing you. I saw her,
I
Frank.
was trying to make sure I didn't talk too long.
No, you're okay.
You're good.
Let's get right into this. Today is the last day of early voting. Many people were almost surprised when you announced that you were going to run for governor. You went from the House to the big seat, and you're trying to be the governor of the state of Georgia. Tell everybody why you would make the best governor.
Elections are about choices, and I am the only candidate in this race who has a proven experience as a business leader who has helped create or retain more than 2,000 jobs working with President Obama. I am a civic leader. I've registered more than 200,000 voters across the state of Georgia. And as a political leader, I led the House Democrats to improve transit, to improve education, to help grandparents raising grandchildren. And I'm ready to lead the state of Georgia forward.
You know, we have a whole bunch of questions for you. As you know, Stacy Abrams was here a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. She made some statements which you answered on Twitter.
Yes.
You responded to on Twitter. One of the things that she said was that you co-authored the legislation to cut the funding of the Hope Scholarship.
Ms. Evans continues to misstate the truth, and I understand that in the last days of an election you want to make yourself look good, but here's the truth. Republicans controlled the legislature. They controlled the state. I saved the Hope Scholarship by fighting with Republicans to ensure that 100% of students with a B average continue to receive the Hope Scholarship. But more than that, I made certain that we had a full day, full week of pre-K, and more than 500,000 4-year-olds have had pre-K since that time. And I led the fight to make certain that we had remedial courses for technical college and co-sponsored the legislation that she carried successfully to make certain we could lower the GPA back to 2.0. But more than that, I have a plan to expand Hope so that we have need-based aid in Georgia for the first time in Georgia's history, and to make certain that we have full access to pre-K and that everyone has a pathway to higher education. That's my plan.
Okay, so to be clear, the Republicans were controlling the vote.
Yes.
You stepped in to make sure some of the things were still left in there.
Right.
Absolutely.
But it was still cut, though. Because there was a time where if you had that grade point average, you got your college paid for. Now, according to your tweet that you put out, you only now fund, what was the number, 27,000 over 4 years?
No. 90% of the full scholarship. So let's remember, 2011, we were going the scholarship was going bankrupt.
Okay.
Nobody denies that. We were near, because it's paid for by the lottery. And if you guys remember, in 2011, nobody had money to play the lottery.
Okay.
Over time, however, what had also happened was that we were changing the standards. Republicans changed the standards for years. By the time we got to 2011, the standards were changing, and I was trying to save as much money for as many students as possible, especially those students who weren't going to UGA, weren't going to Georgia Tech, but still needed Hope. And I made certain every student in Georgia, 100% of students still have access to Hope in the state of Georgia.
Maria?
And increasing the SAT requirement to 1,200, which, of course, a lot of us didn't have.
Right.
I mean, whose idea was it to agree to all of that?
So the Republicans, that's what they wanted, full stop. The Republican plan was to raise the GPA and to raise the standardized test score, and they were going to pass it. They had the votes in the House and the Senate to pass that. It wasn't until I came to the table and negotiated keeping the B average that we got that added back into the plan. It wasn't until I came to the table to get pre-K added back to the table, because unfortunately, had we followed my opponent's plan, we would have lost pre-K, we would have lost Hope, and we would have lost technical college. My job was to save Hope. And while it's very nice to think that if we just said no, the Republicans would have come to their senses, in 11 years, I've never seen that happen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about the pre-K program.
Yes. Pre-K, 500,000 4-year-olds still have full day, full week pre-K because of my work.
Is it possible in our state, because other states have come to the table and made this plan possible, New York being one of them, to make it free?
So yes, there is absolutely a pathway to make technical college free.
I mean, I'm talking about regular college.
There's a
the
way to
state
make
colleges like Georgia State. Why isn't Georgia State University free?
I will say this. I think there's a way to make it debt free. I think we want to be very careful, especially as long as Republicans are in charge. When you make something free, the people who pay for it decide what you learn. And so I think we need to be very careful about what we want to be free. I think debt-free is really what we want. We want people to be able to make their choices and learn what they want to learn. I do not want to put our colleges in the position of having a state legislature that may not reflect our values deciding what we learn. Because if you see what happened in Arizona when they eliminated Chicano classes because things were free. So we just have to be very careful about what we want to be free and what we want to be debt-free.
On the same line, let's talk real quick about healthcare. What would your plan be for healthcare?
I have been proud to be the only person running in this race who has co-sponsored expansion of Medicaid for the last few years. I also personally set up a nonprofit to sign people up for the Affordable Care Act. We need to expand Medicaid on day one. I have the plan and I have the relationships to expand Medicaid when I become the governor of Georgia.
Maria, when we come back, you got a question?
Yeah, I want to talk about Bernie Sanders. Okay. Thank you for being with us. I want to ask you about U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders. You have picked up his endorsement. He thinks you're the best candidate for the job of governor of Georgia. You were the subordinate to Hillary Clinton. And I always forget the title. Surrogate. Yeah, you were the surrogate to Hillary Clinton. It's like this morning, I need more coffee. But want to ask you this. When it comes to Bernie Sanders and his supporters, after the election with Hillary Clinton, there was a lot of animosity between the two campaigns. And then she didn't bring him on, as her vice presidential candidate. Want to ask you, though you picked up the nomination, how do you convince the rest of his supporters, staunch supporters, that you are the best candidate and you have their best interests at heart?
I've been very privileged to receive not only the endorsement of Senator Sanders, Valerie Jarrett, who worked with the Obama administration as a senior advisor to President Obama, is coming in on Friday. My campaign team is comprised of alums of the Obama campaign, of the Clinton campaign, of the Sanders campaign. My campaign is designed to bring all Democrats together, every stripe, every philosophy. And what I think is signaled by his endorsement, which was preceded by an endorsement from Kamala Harris, from Cory Booker, from John Lewis, is that I have the broadest range of support across every type of Democrat. We only win when we stand together and when we hold our power as Democrats to win. And so I'm excited. I received the endorsement of Our Revolution months ago. And so having Senator Sanders' endorsement just reaffirms that wing of the Progressive Party is standing with me. But I'm excited to have those who stood with Clinton, as I did, and very proud to have had her support when I was helping her run for office. And I'm proud to have the support of those I worked with in the Obama administration when I served as leader.
When there's some people that criticized you because you did not endorse Keisha Lance Bottoms as mayor.
Yes.
Why not?
I was in conversations with the Bottoms campaign, and there was a lot of challenges with trying to organize that. And at the point where we were really getting ready to do it, she gave a tentative endorsement of my opponent. And that's absolutely her prerogative. They've known each other for a while. But in politics, part of an endorsement is saying, I'm going to stand with you. And while I was absolutely proud to vote for the mayor, and I've reached out to her since, and we have a cordial relationship, at the time, that was not the appropriate thing for me to do.
Wow.
How do you think she's doing now?
I think that she has made some important changes. Her stance on cash bail, eliminating cash bail, is exactly what I want to do as the next governor. I have a criminal justice reform plan that's grounded in work I've done with my brother and work I've done with Governor Deal to expand criminal justice reform, to help families decriminalize poverty, to make certain that folks have the ability to reenter. What I want to do is make certain we raise the age at which a young person can be charged as an adult. And we have to deal with community policing, what we saw happen with Mama Campbell. There are lots of things that the governor needs to do. And I think what Mayor Bottoms has done is something that I want to not only scale, but I want to deepen and widen how we do this across the state of Georgia.
One more question from me. What would you do if you sat in the governor's office to help really unify our transit problem, especially here in Atlanta?
The major issue with transit is that it has been a piecemeal process where we've had two counties in a city funding a region, and that is that's intractable and it's unsustainable. One of my proudest moments was as Democratic leader getting $75 million into public transit, the largest investment the state has ever made. And I was able to do that as the leader of the Democrats in the minority. As governor, I would take the legislation that was recently passed and actually fund it. But we have to understand that transit's not just a Metro Atlanta problem. This is an issue across the state. If you live in Talbot County, Georgia, there's no grocery store, there's no hospital. You have to rely on public transit coming out of Columbus to get to what you need. We have to think about transit as a statewide issue for senior citizens, for the disabled, for those who are just trying to get to work to make a living. And my mission is to make certain that we put money into the pockets of our families. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure they can get to good paying jobs.
Wanda?
I was going to say, I'm glad you asked that question, Frank, because for me, living here, I moved here like in 91, and the traffic I cry sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm like, what's going to be done about this? And I see you have people, that support you, like John Lewis and David Scott and Hank Johnson, and just want to know, like, what would you do as far as media is concerned? How would you handle the morning show and TV? How would you handle it?
She's basically saying, are you going to come?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I will say this. I think I have had the most transparent and engaged campaign. We have 10 offices across the state. Yesterday, I was in Cordele. I was in Americus. I was in Valdosta. Today, we're going to Augusta. I'll be in Montezuma on Monday. We have been across the state. We were in Gainesville and Dalton. We've been to Hepzibah and to DeSoto.
Right.
And I've gone across the state because I want people to know who their governor should be and will be. Because we have to have a state where everyone has the freedom and opportunity to thrive. But that only happens when you're accessible and when you're transparent and authentic.
Yes. And that's why I mentioned those people, because they are.
Absolutely.
You're in the state of Georgia, Stacy. Everyone knows the state of Georgia. It's history. You're black. You're female. You'd make history if you won. The Republicans are in charge. They are in charge. How ready is the state of Georgia for Stacy Abrams, a black, a female, to be governor?
I am the most qualified candidate running for this office. There is no one who brings my skills. And while I am proud to be an African-American woman who will become the governor of Georgia, what I will tell you is this. Georgia is not a red state. We are blue and confused. We have enough Democrats. But the issue is, Democrats have two choices. We can vote for a Democrat or we cannot vote. I'm running the most transparent and progressive campaign because I want people to have a reason to vote for themselves and not just to vote against the other guy.
Stacy Abrams has been our special guest. Thank you very much for stopping by to visit Frank and Wanda.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck in the election.
Thank you. And please remember to vote Abrams on May 22nd and today.
Today is the last day of early voting. It's the People Station V103, the ATL's #1 for hip hop and R&B.